Who's there?
Nay, answer me. Stand and unfold yourself.
Long live the king.
Bernardo,
He.
you come most carefully upon your hour.
'Tis now struck 12. Get thee to bed, Francisco.
For this relief much thanks. 'Tis bitter cold and I am sick at heart.
Have you had quiet watch?
Not a mouse stirring.
Well, good night. If you do meet Horatio and Marcellus, the rivals of my watch, bid them make haste.
I think I hear them. Stand ho, who's there?
Friends to this ground.
And liegemen to the Dane.
Give you good night.
Oh, farewell, honest soldier. Who hath relieved you?
Bernardo hath my place. Give you good night.
Hola, Bernardo.
Say, what, is Horatio there?
A piece of him.
Welcome, Horatio. Welcome, good Marcellus.
What, has this thing appeared again tonight?
I have seen nothing.
Horatio says 'tis but our fantasy, and will not let belief take hold of him. Touching this dreaded sight twice seen by us, therefore I have entreated him along with us to watch the minutes of this night, that if again this apparition come, he may approve our eyes and speak to it.
Tush, tush, 'twill not appear.
Sit down a while, and let us once again assail your ears that are so fortified against our story, what we have 2 nights seen.
Well, sit we down and let us hear Bernardo speak of this.
Last night of all, when yon same star that's westward from the pole had made his course to illumine that part of heaven where now it burns, Marcellus and myself, the bell then beating 1.
Peace, peace. Break thee off. Look where it comes again.
In the same figure, like the king that's dead.
Thou art a scholar. Speak to it, Horatio.
Looks he not like the king? Mark it, Horatio.
Most like. It harrows me with fear and wonder.
It would be spoke to.
Speak to it, Horatio.
What art thou that usurpest this time of night, together with that fair and warlike form in which the majesty of buried Denmark did sometimes march? By heaven, I charge thee, speak.
It is offended.
See, it stalks away.
Stay, speak, speak. I
'Tis
charge
gone.
thee, speak.
'Tis gone and will not answer.
How now, Horatio, you tremble and look pale. Is not this something more than fantasy? What think you on it?
Before my God, I might not this believe without the sensible and true avouch of mine own eyes.
Is it not like the king?
As thou art to thyself. Such was the very armor he had on when he, the ambitious Norway, combated. So frowned he once when in an angry parle he smote the sledded Pollux on the ice. Oh, 'tis strange.
Thus twice before, and jump at this dead hour with martial stalk hath he gone by our watch.
In what particular thought to work I know not, but in the gross and scope of mine opinion, this bodes some strange eruption to our state.
Good now, sit down and tell me, he that knows, why this same strict and most observant watch so nightly toils the subject of the land, and why such daily cast of brazen cannon and foreign mart for implements of war? Why such impress of shipwrights, whose sore task does not divide the Sunday from the week? What might be toward that this sweaty haste doth make the night a joint laborer with the day? Who is it that can inform me?
That can I. At least the whisper goes so. Our last king, whose image even but now appeared to us, was, as you know, by Fortinbras of Norway, thereto pricked on by a most emulate pride, dared to the combat, in which our valiant Hamlet, for so this side of our known world esteemed him, did slay this Fortinbras, who, by a sealed compact, well ratified by law and heraldry, did forfeit with his life all those his lands which he stood seized of to the conqueror.
I think it be no other, but even so. Well may it sort that this portentous figure comes armed through our watch, so like the king that was and is the question of these wars.
A mode it is to trouble the mind's eye. But soft, behold, lo, where it comes again. I'll cross it, though it blast me. Stay, illusion. If thou hast any sound or use of voice, speak to me. If there be any good thing to be done that may to thee do ease and grace to me, speak to me. If thou art privy to thy country's fate, which happily foreshadowing may avoid, oh, speak. Or if thou hast uphoarded in thy life extorted treasure in the womb of earth, for which they say you spirits oft walk in death, speak of it. Stay and speak. Stop it, Marcellus.
Shall I strike it with my partisan?
Do if it will not stand.
'Tis here.
'Tis gone. We do it wrong, being so majestical, to offer it this show of violence, for it is of the air, invulnerable, and our vain blows malicious mockery.
It was about to speak when the cock crew.
And then it started like a guilty thing upon a fearful summons. I have heard the cock that is the trumpet to the morn, doth with his lofty and shrill sounding throat awake the god of day, and at his warning, whether in sea or fire, in earth or air, the extravagant and erring spirit hies to his confine, and of the truth therein this present object made probation.
It faded on the crowing of the cock. Some say that ever against that season comes when our Savior's birth is celebrated, this bird of dawning singeth all night long. And then they say, no spirit dare stir abroad. The nights are wholesome, and no planet strike, no fairy takes, nor witch hath power to charm. So hallowed and so gracious is that time.
So have I heard, and do in part believe it. But look, the morn in russet mantle clad walks o'er the dew of yon high eastward hill. Break we our watch up, and by my advice, let us impart what we have seen tonight unto young Hamlet. For upon my life, this spirit, dumb to us, will speak to him. Do you consent we shall acquaint him with it as needful in our loves, fitting our duty?
Let's do it, I pray, and this morning I know where we shall find him most convenient.
Though yet of Hamlet, our dear brother's death, the memory be green, and that it us befitted to bear our hearts in grief, and our whole kingdom to be contracted in one brow of woe. Yet so far hath discretion fought with nature that we with wisest sorrow think on him together with remembrance of ourselves. Therefore, our sometime sister, now our queen, the imperial jointress to this warlike state, have we, as 'twere with a defeated joy, with an auspicious and a dropping eye, with mirth in funeral and with dirge in marriage, in equal scale weighing delight and dole, taken to wife. Nor have we herein barred your better wisdoms, which have freely gone with this affair along. For all our thanks. Now follows that you know, young Fortinbras, holding a weak supposal of our worth, or thinking by our dear late brother's death, our state to be disjoint and out of frame, colleagued with this dream of his advantage, he hath not failed to pester us with message, importing the surrender of those lands lost by his father with all bounds of law to our most valiant brother. So much for him. Now for ourself and for this time of meeting, this much the business is. We have here writ to Norway, uncle of young Fortinbras, who, impotent and bedrid, scarcely hears of this his nephew's purpose, to suppress his further gait herein, in that the levies, the lists, and full proportions are all made out of his subject. And we here dispatch you, good Cornelius, and you, Voltimand, for bearers of this greeting to old Norway, giving to you no further personal power to business with the king, more than the scope of these dilated articles allow. Farewell, and let your haste commend your duty.
In that and in all things we will show our duty.
We doubt it nothing. Heartily farewell. And now, Laertes, what's the news with you? You told us of some suit. What is't, Laertes? You cannot speak of reason to the Dane and lose your voice. What wouldst thou beg, Laertes? It shall not be my offer, not thy asking. The head is not more native to the heart, the hand more instrumental to the mouth, than is the throne of Denmark to thy father. What wouldst thou have, Laertes?
My dread lord, your leave and favor to return to France, from whence, though willingly I came to Denmark to show my duty in your coronation, yet now I must confess that duty done, my thoughts and wishes bend toward France, and bow them to your gracious leave and pardon.
Well, have you your father's leave? What says Polonius?
Hath, my lord, wrung from me my slow leave by laborsome petition, and at last upon his will I sealed my hard consent. I do beseech you, give him leave to go.
Take thy fair hour, Laertes. Time be thine, and thy best graces speeded at thy will. But now, my cousin Hamlet and my son.
A little more than kin and less than kind.
How is it that the clouds still hang on you?
Not so, my lord. I am too much in the sun.
Good Hamlet, cast thy nighted color off, and let thine eye look like a friend on Denmark. Do not forever with thy veiled lids seek for thy noble father in the dust. Thou know'st 'tis common, all that lives must die, passing through nature to eternity.
Aye, madam, 'tis common.
If it be, why seems it so particular with thee?
Seems, madam? Nay, it is. I know not seems. 'Tis not alone my inky cloak, good mother, nor customary suits of solemn black, nor windy suspiration of forced breath. No, nor the fruitful river in the eye, nor the dejected havior of the visage, together with all forms, moods, shapes of grief that can denote me truly. These indeed seem, for they are actions that a man might play. But I have that within which passes show, these but the trappings and the suits of woe.
It's sweet and commendable in your nature, Hamlet, to give these mourning duties to your father. But you must know your father lost a father. That father lost his, and the survivor bound in filial obligation for some term to do obsequious sorrow. But to persevere in obstinate condolement is a course of impious stubbornness. 'Tis unmanly grief. It shows a will most incorrect to heaven, a heart unfortified, a mind impatient, an understanding simple and unschooled. For what we know must be and is as common as any the most vulgar thing to sense. Why should we in our peevish opposition take it to heart? Fie, 'tis a fault to heaven, a fault against the dead, a fault to nature, to reason most absurd, whose common theme is death of fathers, and who still hath cried from the first course till he that died today, this must be so. We pray you, throw to earth this unprevailing woe, and think of us as of a father. For let the world take note, you are the most immediate to our throne, and with no less nobility of love than that which dearest father bears his son, do I impart toward you. For your intent in going back to school in Wittenberg, it is most retrograde to our desire. And we beseech you, bend you to remain here in the cheer and comfort of our eye, our chiefest courtier, cousin, and our son.
Let not thy mother lose her prayers, Hamlet. I pray thee, stay with us. Go not to Wittenberg.
I shall in all my best obey you, madam.
Why, 'tis a loving and a fair reply. Be as ourself in Denmark. Madam, come. This gentle and unforced accord of Hamlet sits smiling to my heart, in grace whereof no jocund health that Denmark drinks today, but the great cannon to the clouds shall tell, and the kings roused the heavens shall bruit again, re-speaking earthly thunder. Come away.
Oh, that this too sullied flesh would melt, thaw, resolve itself into a dew, or that the everlasting had not fixed his cannon against self-slaughter. Oh God, God, how weary, stale, flat, and unprofitable seem to me all the uses of this world. Fie on it, fie on it. 'Tis an unweeded garden that grows to seed. Things rank and gross in nature possess it merely. That it should come to this. But 2 months dead, nay, not so much, not 2. So excellent a king that was to this Hyperion to a satyr, so loving to my mother that he might not beteem the winds of heaven visit her face so roughly. Heaven and earth must I remember. Why, she would hang on him as if increase of appetite had grown by what it fed on. And yet within a month, let me not think on it. Frailty, thy name is woman. A little month, or ere those shoes were old with which she followed my poor father's body, like Niobe, all tears. Why she, even she, oh God, a beast that once discourse of reason would have mourned longer, married with my uncle, my father's brother, but no more like my father than I to Hercules. Within a month, ere yet the salt of most unrighteous tears had left the flushing in her galled eyes, she married. Oh, wicked speed, to post with such dexterity to incestuous sheets. It is not, nor can it come to good. But break my heart, for I must hold my tongue.
Hail to your lordship.
I'm glad to see you well. Horatio, is that you, or do I forget myself?
The same, my lord, and your poor servant ever.
Ah, sir, my good friend, I'll change that name with you. And what make you from Wittenberg, Horatio? Ah, Marcellus.
Good Lord.
I'm so glad to see you. Good even, sir, Bernardo. But what in faith make you from Wittenberg?
A truant disposition, good my lord.
I would not hear your enemy say so, nor shall you do in my ear that violence to make it a truster of your own report against yourself. I know you are no truant. But what is your affair in Elsinore? We'll teach you to drink deep ere you depart.
My lord, I came to see your father's funeral.
I prithee, do not mock me, fellow student. I think it was to see my mother's wedding.
Indeed, my lord, it followed hard upon.
Thrift, Horatio. The funeral baked meats did coldly furnish forth the marriage tables. Would I had met my dearest foe in heaven, or ever I had seen that day, Horatio. My father. Ah, methinks I see my father.
Where, my lord?
In my mind's eye, Horatio.
I saw him once. He was a goodly king.
He was a man. Take him for all in all, I shall not look upon his like again.
My lord, I think I saw him yesternight.
Saw who?
My lord, the king your father.
The king? My father?
Season your admiration for a while with an attent ear. till I may deliver upon the witness of these gentlemen this marvel to you.
For God's love, let me hear.
2 nights together had these gentlemen, Marcellus and Barnardo, on their watch, in the dead waste and middle of the night, been thus encountered. A figure like your father, armed at point exactly, cap à pie, appears before them, and with sullen march goes slowly and stately by them. Thrice he walked by their oppressed and fear-surprised eyes within his truncheon's length, whilst they, distilled almost to jelly with the act of fear, stand dumb and speak not to him. This to me in dreadful secrecy impart they did, and I with them the 3rd night kept the watch, where, as they had delivered, both in time, form of the thing, each word made true and good, the apparition comes. I knew your father, these hands are not more like.
But where was this?
My lord, upon the platform where we watch.
Did you not speak to it?
My lord, I did, but answer made it none. Yet once methought it lifted up its head, and did address itself to motion, like as it would speak. But even then the morning cock crew loud, and at the sound it shrunk in haste away, and vanished from our sight.
'Tis very strange.
As I do live, my honored lord, 'tis true, and we think it writ down in our duty to let you know of it.
Indeed, sirs, but this troubles me. Hold you the watch tonight?
We do, my lord.
Armed, say you?
Armed, my lord.
From top to toe?
My lord, from head to foot.
Then saw you not his face?
Oh yes, my lord, he wore his beaver up.
What? Looked he frowningly?
Countenance more in sorrow than in anger.
Pale or red?
Oh nay, very pale.
And fixed his eyes upon you?
Most constantly.
I would I had been there.
It would have much amazed you.
Very like. Stayed it long?
While one with moderate haste might tell 100.
Longer.
Longer.
Not when I saw it.
His head was grizzled, no?
It was as I have seen it in his life, a sable, silvered.
I will watch tonight. Perchance 'twill walk again.
I warrant it will.
If it assume my noble father's person, I'll speak to it, though hell itself should gape and bid me hold my peace. I pray you all, if you have hitherto concealed this sight, that it be tenable in your silence still, and whatsoever else shall hap tonight, give it an understanding, but no tongue. I will requite your loves. So, fare you well. Upon the platform, twixt 11 and 12, I'll visit you.
Our duty to your honor.
Your loves as mine to you. Farewell. My father's spirit in arms. All is not well. I doubt some foul play. Would the night were come. Till then, sit still, my soul. Foul deeds will rise, though all the earth o'erwhelm them to men's eyes.
My necessaries are embarked. Farewell, and sister, as the winds give benefit and convey as assistant, do not sleep, but let me hear from you.
Do you doubt that?
For Hamlet and the trifling of his favor, hold it a fashion and a toy in blood, a violet in the use of priming nature. Forward, not permanent, sweet, not lasting, the perfume and suppliance of a minute, no more.
No more, but so?
Think it no more, for nature crescent does not grow alone in hues and bulk, but as this temple waxes, the inward service of the mind and soul grows wide withal. Perhaps he loves you now, and now no soil nor caudle can but doth besmirch the virtue of his will. But you must fear his greatness weighed. His will is not his own, for he himself is subject to his birth. He may not, as unvalued persons do, carve for himself. For on his choice depends the safety and the health of this whole state. And therefore must his choice be circumscribed unto the voice and yielding of that body whereof he is the head. Then if he says he loves you, it fits your wisdom so far to believe it, as he in his particular act and place may give his saying deed. Then weigh what loss your honor may sustain, if with too credent ear you list his songs, or lose your heart, or your treasure open to his unmastered importunity. Fear it, Ophelia, fear it, my dear sister, and keep you in the rear of your affection, out of the shot and danger of desire. The chariest maid is prodigal enough if she unmask her beauty to the moon. Virtue itself scapes not calumnious strokes. The canker galls the infants of the spring too oft before their buttons be disclosed. And in the morn and liquid dew of youth, contagious blasphements are most imminent. Be wary then. Best safety lies in fear. Youth to itself rebels, though none else near.
I shall the effect of this good lesson keep as watchman to my heart. But good brother, do not, as some ungracious pastors do, show me the steep and thorny way to heaven, whilst, like a puffed and reckless libertine, himself of the primrose path of dalliance treads, and recks not his own reed.
Oh, fear me not. I stay too long, but here my father comes. A double blessing is a double grace. Occasion smiles upon a second leave.
Yet here, Laertes? Aboard, aboard, for shame. The wind sits in the shoulder of your sail, and you are stayed for. There, my blessing with thee. In these few precepts in thy memory look thou character. Give thy thoughts no tongue, nor any unproportioned thought his act. Be thou familiar, but by no means vulgar. Those friends thou hast, and their adoption tried, grapple them unto thy soul with hoops of steel, but do not dull thy palm with entertainment of each new hatched, unfledged courage. Beware of entrance to a quarrel, but being in, bear it that the opposed may beware of thee. Give every man thy ear, but few thy voice. Take each man's censure, but reserve thy judgment. Costly thy habit as thy purse can buy, but not expressed in fancy rich, not gaudy. For the apparel oft proclaims the man, and they in France of the best rank and station are of a most select and generous chief in that. Neither a borrower nor a lender be, for loan oft loses both itself and friend, and borrowing dulls the edge of husbandry. This of all, to thine own self be true, and it must follow as the night the day, thou canst not then be false to any man. Farewell, my blessing season this in thee.
Most humbly, my lord, do I take my leave.
The time invests you. Go, your servants tend.
Farewell, Ophelia, and remember well what I have said to you.
'Tis in my memory locked, and you yourself shall keep the key of it.
Farewell.
What is it, Ophelia, he has saith to you?
So please you, something touching the Lord Hamlet.
Mary, well bethought 'tis hold me he hath very oft of late given private time to you, and you yourself have of your audience been most free and bounteous. If it be so as so 'tis put to me, and that in way of caution, I must tell you, you do not understand yourself so clearly as it behooves my daughter and your honor. What is it between you? Give me up the truth.
He hath, my lord, of late made many tenders of his affection to me.
Affection? Pah! You speak like a green girl unsifted in such perilous circumstance. Do you believe his tenders, as you call them?
I do not know, my lord, what I should think.
Mary, I shall teach you. Think yourself a baby that you have taken these tenders for true pay, which are not sterling. Tender yourself more dearly, or, not to crack the wind of the poor phrase, running it thus, you'll tender me a fool.
My lord, he hath importuned me with love in honorable fashion.
Aye, fashion, you may call it. Go to.
And hath given countenance to his speech, my lord, with almost all the holy vows of heaven.
Aye, springs to catch woodcocks. I do know when the blood burns how prodigal the soul lends the tongue vows. These blazes, daughter, giving more light than heat, extinct in both even in their promise as it is a making, you must not take for fire. From this time be something scanter of your maiden presence. Set your entreatments at a higher rate than a command to parle. For Lord Hamlet, believe so much in him that he is young, and with a larger tether may he walk than may be given you. In few, Ophelia, do not believe his vows, for they are brokers, not of that dye which their investments show, but mere imperlators of unholy suits, breathing like sanctified and pious bawds the better to beguile. This is for all. I would not, in plain terms, from this time forth, have you so slander any moment leisure as to give words or talk with Lord Hamlet. Look to it, I charge you. Come your ways.
I shall obey, my lord.
The air bites shrewdly. It is very cold.
It is a nipping and an eager air.
What hour now?
I think it lacks 12.
No, it is struck.
Indeed, I heard it not. It then draws near the season wherein the spirit is wont to walk. What does this mean, my lord?
The king doth wake tonight and takes his rouse, keeps wassail, and the swaggering upspring reels, and as he drains his draughts of Rhenish down, the kettle drum and trumpet thus bray out the triumph of his pledge.
Is it a custom?
Aye, Mary, it is, but to my mind, though I am native here and to the manor born, it's a custom more honored in the breach than in the observance.
Look, my lord, here it comes.
Angels and ministers of grace, defend us. Be thou a spirit of health or goblin damned, bring with the airs from heaven or blasts from hell. Be thy intents wicked or charitable, thou comest in such a questionable shape that I will speak to thee. I'll call thee Hamlet, King. Father. Royal Dane, oh, answer me. Let me not burst in ignorance, but tell why thy canonized bones, hearsed in death, have burst their cerements, why the sepulchre which we saw thee quietly interned hath oped his ponderous and marble jaws to cast thee up again. What may this mean, that thou dread dead corse again in complete steel revisits thus the glimpses of the moon, making night hideous, and we fools of nature so hardly to shake our disposition with thoughts beyond the reaches of our souls? Say, why is this? Wherefore? What should we do?
It beckons you to go away with it, as if it's some in part to desire to you alone.
Look with what courteous action it waves you to a more removed ground, but do not go with it.
No, by no means.
It will not speak, then I will follow it.
Do not, my lord.
Why, what should be the fear? I do not set my life at a pin's fee. And for my soul, what can it do to that, being a thing immortal as itself? It waves me forth again. I'll follow it.
What if it tempts you toward the flood, my lord? Or that dreadful summit of the cliff that beetles o'er his base into the sea, and there assume some other horrible form, which may deprive your sovereignty of reason and draw you into madness. Think of it. The very place puts toys of desperation without more motive into every brain that looks so many fathoms to the sea and hears it roar beneath.
It waves me still. Go on, I'll follow thee.
You shall not go, my lord.
Hold off your hands.
Be ruled, you shall not go.
My fate cries out and makes each petty archer in this body as hardy as the Nemean lion's nerve. Still I am called. Unhand me, gentlemen. By heaven, I'll make a ghost of him that lets me. I say away, go on, I'll follow thee.
He waxes desperate with imagination.
Let's follow. 'Tis not fit thus to obey him.
Have after. To what issue will this come?
Something is rotten in the state of Denmark.
Heaven will direct it.
Nay, let's follow him.
Whither will thou lead me? Speak, I'll go no further.
Mark me.
I will.
My hour is almost come when I to sulphurous and tormenting flames must render up myself.
Oh, alas, poor ghost.
Pity me not, but lend thy serious hearing to what I shall unfold.
Speak, I am bound to hear.
So art thou to revenge when thou shalt hear.
What?
I am thy father's spirit, doomed for a certain term to walk the night, and for the day confined to fast in fires, till the foul crimes done in my days of nature are burst and purged away. But that I am forbid to tell the secrets of my prison house, I could unfold a tale whose lightest word would harrow up thy soul and freeze thy young blood. Make thy two eyes like stars start from their spheres, thy knotted and combined locks to part, at each particular hair to stand on end, like quills upon the fearful porpentine. But this eternal blazon must not be to ears of flesh and blood. List, list, oh, list, if thou didst ever thy dear father love.
Oh, God.
Revenge this foul and most unnatural murder.
Murder?
Murder most foul, as in the best it is, but this most foul, strange, and unnatural.
Haste me to know it, that I, with wings as swift as mediation, or the thoughts of love, may sweep to my revenge.
I find thee apt, and duller shouldst thou be than the fat weed that roots itself in ease on Lethe wharf. Wouldst thou not stir in this? Now, Hamlet, hear. This given out that, sleeping in my orchard, a serpent stung me, so the whole ear of Denmark is by a forged process of my death rankly abused. But know, thou noble youth, the serpent that did sting thy father's life now wears his crown.
Oh, my prophetic soul, my uncle.
Aye, that incestuous, that adulterous beast, with witchcraft of his wits, with traitorous gifts, O wicked wit and gifts that have the power so to seduce. Won to his shameful lust, the will of my most seeming virtuous queen. O Hamlet, what a falling off was there from me, whose love was of that dignity that it went hand in hand even with the vow I made to her in marriage, and to decline upon a wretch whose natural gifts were poor to those of mine. But virtue, as it never will be moved, though lewdness courted in a shape of heaven, so lust, though to a radiant angel linked, will sate itself in a celestial bed and prey upon garbage. But soft, methinks I scent the morning air. Brief let me be, sleeping within my orchard, my custom always of the afternoon. Upon my secure hour, thy uncle stole with juice of cursed Hibona in a vial, and in the porches of my ear did pour the leprous distilment, whose effect holds such an enmity with blood of man, that swift as quicksilver, it courses through the natural gates and alleys of the body, and with a sudden vigor, it doth posset and curd like eager droppings into milk, the thin and wholesome blood. So did it mine, and a most instant teeter barked about, most lazar-like, with vile and loathsome crust. All my smooth body, thus was I, sleeping by my brother's hand of life, of crown, of queen, at once dispatched. Cut off, even in the blossom of my sin, unhouseled, disappointed, unannailed, no reckoning made, but sent to my account with all my imperfections on my head. Oh, horrible, horrible, most horrible. If thou hadst nature in thee, bear it not. Let not the royal bed of Denmark be a couch for luxury and damned incest. But howsoever thou pursues this act, taint not thy mind, nor let thy soul contrive against thy mother aught. Leave her to heaven and to those thorns that in her bosom lodge to prick and sting her. Fare thee well at once. The glowworm shows the matin to be near, and gins to pale his ineffectual fire. Adieu, 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 remember me.
Oh, all you host of heaven, oh, earth, what else? And shall I couple hell? Oh, fie, hold my heart, and you my sinews. Grow not instant old, but bear me stiffly up. Remember thee. Ay, thou poor ghost, whilst memory holds a seat in this distracted globe. Remember thee. Yea, from the table of my memory I'll wipe away all trivial fond records, all saws of books, all forms, all pressures past that youth and observation copied there, and thy commandment all alone shall live within the book and volume of my brain, unmixed with baser matter. Yes, by heaven, O most pernicious woman! Oh, villain, villain, smiling, damned villain! My tables meted as I set it down, that one may smile and be a villain. At least I am sure it may be so in Denmark. So, uncle, there you are. Now to my word, it is adieu, adieu. Remember me. I have sworn it.
My lord, my lord.
Lord Hamlet.
Heaven secure him.
So be it.
Hello, ho, ho, my lord.
Hello, ho, ho, boy. Come, thou bird. Come.
How is it, my noble lord?
What news, my lord?
Oh, wonderful.
Good, my lord, tell it.
No, you will reveal it.
Not I, my lord, by heaven.
Nor I, my lord.
How say you then? Would heart of man once think it, but you will be secret?
Aye, by
Aye,
heaven,
by
my
heaven,
lord.
my lord.
There's never a knave, a villain dwelling in all Denmark, but he's an errant knave.
There needs no ghost, my lord, come from the grave to tell us this.
Why, right, you are in the right. And so without more circumstance at all, I hold it fit that we shake hands and part, for you as your business and desire shall point you, for every man hath business and desire, such as it is. And I, for my own poor part, I will go pray.
These are but wild and whirling words, my lord.
I am sorry they offend you heartily. Yes, faith, heartily.
There's no offense, my lord.
Yes, by Saint Patrick, but there is, Horatio, and much offense too. Touching this vision here, it is an honest ghost, that let me tell you. For your desire to know what is between us, or master as you may. And now, good friends, as you are friends, scholars and soldiers, give me one poor request.
What is it, Lord? We will.
Never make known what you have seen tonight.
My lord, we will
not.
not.
Nay, but swear it.
In faith, my lord, not I.
Nor I, my lord, in faith.
Up on my sword.
We have sworn, my lord, already.
Indeed, up on my sword, indeed.
Swear.
Ha, ha, boy, say'st thou so? Art thou there, true Penny? Come on, you hear this fellow in the cellarage. Consent to swear.
Propose the oath, my lord.
Never to speak of this that you have seen. Swear by my sword.
Swear.
Hic et ubique, then we'll shift our ground. Come hither, gentlemen, and lay your hands upon my sword. Swear by my sword, never to speak of this that you have heard.
Swear by his sword.
Well said, old mole. Canst work in the earth so fast? A worthy painter. Once more removed, good friends.
Oh, day and night, but this is wondrous strange.
And therefore, as a stranger, give it welcome. There are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophy. But come here as never before, never, so help you mercy. How strange or odd some'er I bear myself, as I perchance hereafter shall think meet to put an antic disposition on, that you at all times seeing me, never shall with arms encumbered thus, or this head shake, or by pronouncing of some doubtful phrase as, well, well, we know, or we could, and if we would, or if we list to speak, or there be an if they might, or such ambiguous giving out to note that you know aught of me, this do swear. So grace and mercy at your most need help you.
Swear.
Rest, rest, perturbed spirit. So, gentlemen, with all my love I do commend me to you, and what so poor a man as Hamlet is, may do it express his love and friendling to you. God willing shall not lack, let us go in together, and still your fingers on your lips, I pray. The time is out of joint. O cursed spite, that ever I was born to set it right. Nay, come, let's go together.
Welcome everyone to live theater. We will now have Act 1, Scene 2 of Hamlet.
Though yet of Hamlet our dear brother's death, the memory be green, and that it is befitted to bear our hearts in grief, and our whole kingdom to be contracted in one brow of woe. Yet so far hath discretion fought with nature, that we with wisest sorrow think of him together, with remembrance of ourselves. Therefore our sometime sister, now our queen, the imperial jointress to this warlike state, have we as 'twere with a defeated joy, with an auspicious and a dropping eye, with mirth in funeral and with dirge in marriage, in equal scale, weighing delight and dole, taken to wife. Nor have we herein barred your better wisdoms, which have freely gone with this affair along. For all our thanks. Now follows that you know, young Fortinbras, holding a weak supposal of our worth, or thinking by our late dear brother's death our state to be disjoint and out of frame, colliged with his dream of advantage, and hath not failed to pester us with message, importing the surrender of those lands lost by his father, with all bonds of law, and to our most valiant brother, so much for him. Now for ourselves, and for this time of meeting, thus much business is, and we have writ to Norway, uncle of young Fortinbras, who impotent and bedrid, scarcely hears of his nephew's purpose, to suppress his further gait herein, in that the levies, the lists, and the full proportions are all made out of his subject. We have here dispatched you, young Cornelius, and you, Voltebrand, for bearers of this greeting to old Norway, giving to you no further personal power to business with the king, more than the scope of these dilated articles allow. Farewell, and let your haste commend your duty.
In that in all things we will show our duty.
We doubted nothing. Heartily farewell. Now, Laertes, what's news with you? You told us of some suit. What is it, Laertes? You cannot speak of reason to the Dane and lose your voice. What wouldst thou beg, Laertes? That shall not be my offer, not thy asking. The head is no more native to the heart, the hand more instrumental to the mouth, than is the throne of Denmark to thy father. What wouldst thou have, Laertes?
My dread lord, your leave and favor to return to France, from whence though willingly I came to Denmark to show my duty in your coronation, yet now I must confess, that duty done, my thoughts and wishes bend again toward France, and bow them to your gracious leave and pardon.
Have you your father's leave? What says Polonius?
Hath, my lord, wrung from me my slow leave by laborsome petition, and at last upon his will I sealed my hard consent. I do beseech you, give him leave to go.
Take thy fair hour, Laertes, time be thine, and thou best graces spend it at thy will. By now, my cousin Hamlet and my son.
A little more than kin and less than kind.
How is it that the clouds still hang on you?
Not so, my lord, I'm too much in the sun.
Good Hamlet, cast thy nighted color off, and let thine eye look like a friend on Denmark. Do not forever with thy veiled lids seek for thy noble father in the dust. Thou know'st 'tis common, all that lives must die, passing through nature to eternity.
Aye, madam, it is common.
If it be, why seems it so particular with thee?
Seems, madam? Nay, it is. I know not seems. 'Tis not alone my inky cloak, good mother, nor customary suits of solemn black, nor windy suspiration of forced breath, no, nor the fruitful river in the eye, nor the dejected behavior of the visage, together with all forms, moods, shapes of grief that can denote me truly. These indeed seem, for they are actions that a man might play. But I have that within which passes show, these but the trappings and the suits of woe.
'Tis sweet and commendable in your nature, Hamlet, to give these mourning duties to your father. But you must know your father's lost a father. That father lost his, and the survivor bound in filial obligation for some term to do obsequious sorrow. But to persevere in obstinate condolence is a course of impious stubbornness. 'Tis unmanly grief. It shows a will most incorrect to heaven, a heart unfortified, a mind impatient, an understanding simple and unschooled. For what we know must be and is as common as any. The most vulgar thing to sense, why should we in our peevish opposition take it to heart? Fie! 'Tis a fault of heaven, a fault against the dead, a fault to nature, to reason most absurd, whose common theme is death of fathers, and who still hath cried from the corse till he that died today. This must be so. We pray you, throw to earth the unprevailing woe, and think of us as a father. For let the world take note, you are the most immediate to our throne, and with no less nobility of love than that which dearest father bears his son, I do impart toward you. For your intent in going back to school in Wittenberg, it is most retrograde to our desire. We beseech you, bend you to remain here in the cheer and comfort of our eye, our chiefest courtier cousin, and our son.
Let not thy mother lose her prayers, Hamlet. I pray thee, stay with us. Go not to Wittenberg.
I will, in all my best, obey you, madam.
Why, 'tis a loving and a fair reply. Be as yourself in Denmark. Madam, come. This gentle and unforced accord of Hamlet sits smiling to my heart, in grace whereof no jocund health than Denmark drinks today, but the great cannon to the clouds shall tell, and the king rose, the heavens shall bruit again, be speaking earthly thunder. Come away.
The play is over. However, our session will continue. I will end this meeting and quickly start our regular lunch colloquium meeting, which you are sent the normal connection.
Bravo, bravo. Wonderful. Nice. Welcome, everyone. Okay.
So I just want to say all of our thanks to Sarah, who has done a wonderful job in getting this all taken care of. And I will turn the question and answer session over to her, and she will be in charge of it. Just to let everyone know, we will mute everyone. And then when it's appropriate and you want to make a comment or ask a question, raise your hand. That's a Zoom raise hand. If you click on participants, there's a blue hand at the bottom, and you can make it known that you would like to make a comment. So Sarah, I'll turn it over to you, and thanks again.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. I think I saw Patty there, but my screen has shifted. Hi, Patty. Thank you all so much for letting me join you. We have about half an hour for questions and answers about the play. I thought I would just give you about a 1-minute overview as to why we decided to do it this way. Can everybody hear me okay? Can you hear me okay? Okay, great. Great. So I am the new Gretchen Schultz. I'm teaching Shakespeare and early modern literature at Emory's Oxford College, and I just finished my first year as a tenure track professor. And I'm just so grateful to be joining that group of teacher scholars and that community, that amazing and magical community at Oxford College. I've been doing these plays on Saturday nights ever since COVID started. So I teach in a prison, and there's a group of us who teach in prisons all over the world that have been meeting every Saturday at 4:30. We choose a play and assign roles. I promise you, we are nowhere near as organized as the Emory Emeritus College, nor do we practice as well as you all do. So I felt out of my league for the last week and a half, and so inspired. I got choked up again listening to you guys at several points. So I do want to point out, I don't know if Colin is here. Did he make it in yet? Okay. Okay, so, you know, Zoom is a technology that we're all growing used to, and it glitched on Colin's link today. He was supposed to play the king and did not make it in. I emailed him during the play to say, that happened to me during my interview at Oxford. They sent me the link I had prepared for weeks. I know you guys are feeling my stress. And as soon as it was time, my link would not work and I could not connect. And I think sweat was dripping down my back. I eventually got the job, but not because I'm great with Zoom, obviously. So Hamlet is Shakespeare's longest play. It's double some of his shorter plays. It's his most cited play when it comes to scholarship. It's also his most enacted play. And I think if we had more time, it would be wonderful to go all the way around the room and hear what productions have you seen of Hamlet? And I think the answers in this group would be remarkable. I saw the first woman of color playing Hamlet on a major stage, Ruth Nega, in February. I've also seen an all-female version of Hamlet that took place in Little 5 Points with 7 women playing all the roles and Hamlet wearing a red camisole. So, so I've seen a spectrum of plays. As I open the floor for question and answers, I thought you might want to know what the Oxford students are engaging with when it comes to Hamlet. I've taught it over the last couple years when I was visiting faculty. And I thought I would just give you an example of 3 of the kinds of papers that they're writing. And then I'm going to stop talking and I'm just going to open up the field for questions. So they're very interested in issues of mental illness, particularly as you know that the ways in which Ophelia and Hamlet himself descend into more and more erratic behavior. So I've had many papers written about Ophelia's madness, many of them centering on the misogyny that's constantly directed at her by pretty much everyone in the play, from her dad, kind of her brother, certainly Hamlet. They're interested in issues of blended families. I mean, Hamlet is the ultimate dysfunctional blended family, right? And they draw on, I think, many of their own experiences with step-parents and are interested in what those dynamics, how they play out. And then they're interested in the, right at the end when Brooks was talking about, yea, from the table of my memory, I'll wipe away everything else but the memory of my father. Well, that table comes from an early modern, to show you an example here. It was an early modern gadget that Shakespeare gave to Hamlet, kind of like an iPhone, where you could write down notes when you're riding around the town during the day and then erase them that night. So that's what he's talking about. It was called a writing table, a little book where you could write things down. And so they're interested in what kinds of historical artifacts are showing up in the play. And then finally, and then I'll launch it here for the questions and answers. They're interested in how messed up time is in this play. We only did Act 1, but you heard Clark Lemon saying, but 2 months dead. Nay, not so much, not 2. You know, and he's not, it seems like 4 different times, but a month dead, a little month. And so it's almost like Hamlet isn't clear on how long it's been since his father died. And that is one of many ways in the play that, as Hamlet says, time is out of joint, including how old Hamlet is. That's a really famous thorny issue in the play. Is he at college? Yes. Is he 30, as we learn in Act 5? Baffling? Yes. Shakespeare seems to want us to be confused about a lot of what's happening with time. And my students at Oxford have written really fascinating papers about how time gets weird. Time gets skewed when you're traumatized. And so what a privilege to teach these brilliant Oxford students and hear all these different perspectives on the play. So with that, what questions do you have? And I guess, Gray, you'll be helping me, right? But I'll be watching here. If somebody has a question, you can raise your hand or or a comment about the readings. You could see we had two different Hamlets. And I think that's fitting because Hamlet himself has many personalities. And so wonderful to see the differences between Clark's and Brooks' readings. Oh, I see Gretchen. Gretchen.
Hi, and actually I just have a more specific question to throw out that relates to my big line, my first line, the first line of the play, who's there, right? And I maintain, as many of you have heard me say, that that's a key to the confusions that run through the play for those who inhabit the world of the play, and the confusions that we experience as members of the audience as to who's really who, right? Who's there? Who or what is the ghost really? What is Claudius really like? What is Hamlet really like? And Gertrude and so on. So let me just throw out a question along those lines. I'm curious as to what those of you who were watching this make of the ghost, whether you blithely assume it is indeed the ghost of Hamlet's father telling the truth, or is it more complicated than that? Who's there? Maybe our ghost has some sense of whether he really is the ghost of Hamlet's father or not. I thought he was a wonderful ghost.
Mm-hmm.
Further, this deponent saith not.
Yeah,
I Marcellus, spent my whole time trying to figure out where this ghost was. I was sure he existed, but I think he was maybe a malicious character. I don't think the real Hamlet would have been this bad a guy.
Mm-hmm. So the ghost is definitely pulling Hamlet backwards instead of letting him progress forward, right? This is something that scholars write a lot about, that the Oxford students are interested in, the way that Hamlet is always being pulled back. So the ghost is saying, remember me, remember me, remember the dead. And his stepdad and his mom are saying, don't go back to Emory, stay with us. Don't grow up, don't be independent. And we know there's, probably nefarious reasons why his stepdad wants a close eye on him, but everybody is sort of pulling Hamlet backwards. And at the same time, his stepdad tells him that his grief is effeminate and that he shouldn't be grieving, right?
Claudius gives him just a terrible time in that first speech, which is ostensibly so friendly, you are like a son to me and so on, but it's just devastating critique. And for the ghost to tell Hamlet all those terrible, devastating things, and boy, Brooks, you really put that across, how devastated you are. And then to say in the same speech, taint not thy mind, right? When he's just utterly blown Hamlet's mind. Of course, there are questions as to how stable Hamlet was to begin with, but okay, other hands up.
Okay, so Clark, I see your hand up.
All right. It was interesting. Hi. It was interesting for me to watch Hamlet #2, Brooks, and fascinating because Hamlet changes so quickly. And Brooks really, it was as if time had passed and things had happened and he was on the verge of just madness. And it made me think it would be interesting to see a production of the whole play where there was a different Hamlet in each act. And you could see this evolution, this devolution in a way. It was really fascinating.
Yeah, it is. And Clark, you did such a brilliant job with that first soliloquy where he says, he says, seems, madam? I know not seems. I don't know how to act, right? I'm not a seamer. Everybody else is seeming here, but not me. But then, of course, he does go on throughout the play. And he puts on a different caricature for almost everybody he's interacting with. He's brilliant. Hamlet is brilliant. Hamlet is one person I would never want to be in a fight with because he can, he can outthink. He's thinking in circles around everybody else. Yeah. Yeah. That's great. Okay. I see Vernon's hand too. Hi, Vernon.
Hi, Sarah. Thanks for leading us in this. I don't know about others' experience. My basic question to you, Sarah, first of all, and then I'll make a little comment, is when you have this presented in prisons, is it always performed by you and the students who go in, the college students and others, or sometimes prisoners there enact some of the roles?
Yeah, and so it's always the men and women inside the prison
who perform it. They read it.
Who perform it, or who are writing and even publishing about it. I have a student who at Phillips State Prison. He's been my student there for 7 years. He's Native American, dyslexic, didn't read until he was 16, combat vet. Just a little background. He just published his piece on Hamlet with the Folger Shakespeare Library. Did not read until he was 16 years old. And so his piece is brilliant. It's actually about the ghost as seen through the Native American tradition it's called a skinwalker. And it's and so they are doing it all. And if any of you, once it's safe to go into the prisons again and safe to be out, if any of you want to come visit the prison class, you are my honored guest. And I think you'd be really inspired.
Comments were made available to us where Emory's Oxford students and members in the prison had written comments about their experience with the play. And some of the prisoners made comments about the Oxford students and how they were concerned that they would come and be uppity and be above and beyond. And they were amazed at how they just immediately became part of the group. So the Oxford students who come along with you are simply in the audience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually that night when they reflected, they had come, and it was a Friday night. It's right before COVID. I had been teaching Henry V in both places. We actually didn't enact it. We got together and had a discussion, much like we're having right now, about Shakespeare and Henry V and ways in which King Henry builds community and fractures community. And so they both came in with their copies of Henry V and discussed it, and those were their reflections that night. Yeah.
Well, I'm kind of asking this because unwittingly, I doubt that anyone who cast me as Polonius knows that my wife and I have a son and daughter, okay? And so, like our daughter Ophelia, I kept thinking of my daughter Ophelia. I kept thinking about our daughter and our son, and here's Laertes, Susan Shapiro, and then Liza Davis played those. And I just want to thank you guys. You did a great job. But after we had rehearsed it, Susan said to me, I told her how happy I was that she was my daughter. And she says, well, but I don't like you that well, Dad.
Mm-hmm.
It's true.
And my experience of doing this actually was that it brought up ghosts in my past.
Yeah.
And for me too, with my own father. And that first, time that you like somebody that your parents don't like, or don't want you to see.
Yeah.
And how they badmouth that person.
And it reminded me of times that I talked like that to my daughter. And later on, I found out she really did not appreciate that.
I think Shakespeare does that for all of us. And my Asian students, my Chinese students in particular, have taught me the Asian proverb, there are 1,000 Hamlets in 1,000 people's eyes.
Yeah. And so when you raise the question of the ghosts,
yeah,
it brought up ghosts of my past. And when you say you're taking Hamlet back in time, it took me back in time as Polonius also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you so much for those. That's inspiring to me. I see Patty and then Jane and Liza. Patty, hi.
Hey, Sarah. So
I
good
miss you.
beautiful face, and thank you for this wonderful presentation. Actually, Vernon stole my question because I wanted you to address the residents of the prison that you work with and their responses to this, which you did on your job talk a couple of years ago that I was privileged to hear, and I was so struck by their reaction, but you've already addressed this. So thank you for your work.
I will add, though, for Patty and others, that I have been taking undergraduates to the prisons for 12 years before I started teaching at Oxford. Probably I had taken 13 different groups of undergrads. Never was I as prepared to take those students, Emory students, undergraduate students, into a different environment than I was because of what Patty Owen Smith has done at Oxford. And I've told all my colleagues this all over the world. Can I send you the materials that we get at Oxford to help our students go in and be culturally competent, be mentally prepared to not walk in thinking they are all that and become, and so thank you, Patty. You've enriched my life in so many ways.
And I just want to say one quick thing. On August 17th, after our 2-week break, we have another wonderful Oxford faculty person, Stacey Bell, who's been doing a lot of work in prisons for many years. And she's specifically going to talk about education in prisons, the program she's involved with. She'll give us more information about the program Sarah founded and is still involved with. So we've got that coming up August 17th.
Great. Okay, Jane and then Liza. Hi, Jane. Let me ask you to unmute, Jane. There you go. I was trying to see if I could do it. Wait, Jane, just a minute. We can't hear you. Let me find you. And then, I'm sorry, you can see I'm not great with Zoom. Gray, can we unmute her?
I'm asking her to.
Okay, there you go.
I'm asking her to unmute herself, but I can't.
I did it twice.
Here we go. There we go. That's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Hi,
Right.
Jane.
Hi. I just wanting to mention an article that I found when I was teaching Hamlet years ago. It was written by Robert Cohen about Shakespeare's 16-year-old Hamlet, in which he finds textual proof, well, very persuasive proof in my mind, from the first quarto, second quarto, and first folio, which finds that the text actually was 16 rather than sexton, and that makes Hamlet, it contradicts the graveyard scene where you do the math and he's 30, that he is really 16. The sexton is 30, but not Hamlet, which changed the way I view Hamlet and Ophelia. They are teenagers. He is in college. He wasn't king because he's too young. He has an attractive wife. He is confused, volatile. He's mean to his girlfriend. He's young, and I just had noticed in these lines we just read, they mentioned twice that he is young. He's a youth. He's going to be king. He can't. His will is not his own. So I found that made the whole play make so much more sense. That we are not dealing with an adult here. We're dealing with a young man trying to deal with all of these horrible events. Anyway. You might see that anybody who's interested to find that article. It's very persuasive. Thank you.
I think that's a great point. And I mentioned that I'd seen the first woman of color play Hamlet in February. Her name is Ruth Nega, and she's very small. I think she's 5'2", this powerful woman. And because she's so small physically, as Hamlet, she looked really young. Claudius towered over her. So did her mom. his mom. And to me, what you're saying, Jane, really resonated in that performance because the play makes more sense when Hamlet is really young. Yeah. Although I have to say, I don't know, both Brooks and Clark, because Hamlet has an old soul. Right. And, he's suffered more than anybody should. He's trying to grieve his dad. He idolized his dad. He finds out that his mom had been having an affair and that his uncle killed that's a lot to deal with. And I thought that the inflection that both Clark and Brooks brought as not 16-year-old Hamlets, Oh, nice. I like what Rosemary is saying. Brooks and Clark are forever young. I agree, Rosemary. I agree. Okay, I think Liza has her hand up. Hi, Liza.
Hi, I really enjoyed being part of this, Sarah. Thank you. And thank you to all my fellow players. Wonderful. I saw David Tennant play Hamlet in Stratford.
Oh,
and it was amazing. Oh, he was very physical and he played it in sort of sarcastically with some joking movements and added inflections. But then I joined the National Theater Live group and saw Benedict Cumberbatch play Hamlet. I don't know if you've seen that.
I have. I saw it twice.
Oh, I thought he was the best Hamlet I'd ever seen.
I took the Oxford students, Liza, and they said the same thing.
Good.
Yeah, we drove to the theater one night and saw it.
I mean, I could tell he was so into that role. He was physically sweating, and he was Hamlet.
Yeah, he's the rational Hamlet, I think, isn't he? They say that he's the one that plays him totally sane.
Yeah, he's much less manic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas Tennant is the opposite way. For $5, I got a copy of the Tennant Hamlet on one of the links you sent us.
Nice, good,
great.
To keep, not rented, so that's nice.
Fantastic.
And if you've seen the old Mel Gibson one, Mel Gibson is totally over the top manic. His eyes are bulging out, and so, and that's what I really appreciated by watching both Clark and Brooks. You see different elements of Hamlet's personality coming out by different people playing him. Same with, our two Horatios. So these are such great points. I think we have time for one more, and Gretchen's hand is up. Hey.
Just some of us are old enough to have seen many Hamlets many years ago. My first live Hamlet was Richard Burton in New York City in 1963, a while back. And even then he was, certainly according to Jane and according even to those of us who think he's probably 30, too old for the part. And as Jane said, we get tired of seeing decrepit Hamlets, but it can work. Not that Clark and Brooks are decrepit, because ever young, as was just said. Just a comment on age. Remember, Hamlet's schoolfellows are Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. Hamlet's schoolfellow is Horatio. If you start going with a 16-year-old Hamlet, you have a play that's just swarming with children, with teenagers. It would feel more like Romeo and Juliet, that I find quite tedious now, because I'm kind of tired of teenagers sometimes. I kind of like what I think, which is an older Hamlet and Horatio and Rosencrantz, Guildenstern, and so on. I mean, we all know graduate students, who just never graduate, who are just hanging around, enjoying what they can of the intellectual life. Anyway, Bill and Pat Graves have a hand up, I see.
Yeah. I'm sorry, do we end at 1 or 1:30? I can go a few extra minutes if there's.
Yeah, Sarah, the time is up to you. I mean, if people want to go somewhere, they can go. It's really up to you.
Okay. Well, go ahead then, Bill and Pat. Hi.
Hi. I wanted to ask about Polonius in prison, that Polonius is just so wonderful at temporizing, and he gets such terrific advice, which in a normal world would be the ultimate self-help book. And of course, in that world, it doesn't work at all. It just shows how crazy, how out of joint that world is. But what about the people in prison? How do they react to Polonius and his sensible advice, like just say no, which is what he says. Essentially, it's what he's saying to Ophelia, just say no.
Yeah, And I, you know, and we put on every bracelet, right? To thine own self be true.
Yeah, I had to memorize it in high school.
I know. Yeah, I'll be honest. Pat, right? Is it right, Pat?
Yeah.
They do not, the men that I've taught in prison do not like Polonius. And here's why.
I understand why.
Not because of that advice scene, but because he is, he's a snitch, is what they say. He's somebody who, he's primarily interested in political capital with the king.
Yeah.
And for them, this is people in prison who are primarily interested. They will sell out other men in prison in order to curry favor with the guards.
Yeah.
And that's about as low a character as you can meet in prison, and is an unpopular character, right? And so anybody who will sell out to power, they are down on.
Yeah.
Now, the opposite of this is Cordelia in the first act of King Lear, who will speak truth to power. And, you know, they were really interested in the pairing of Cordelia, who says no to her father, and then Ophelia, who says, it was Susan's last line, I shall obey my lord. And so Ophelia goes mad, but I'll be honest, it doesn't fare well for Cordelia either, does it?
No, oh, no.
And so, you know, this is something that I would say my incarcerated students and also my undergraduate students are really interested in. Women just couldn't win. They could speak truth to power, and that doesn't go well. They can concede to power, and that doesn't go well.
Let me tell you what one of my Oxford students said to sum up Polonius at one point in a freewheeling class discussion. He said, Polonius is Claudius' bitch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one way to look at it.
Mm-hmm. Right. So that's
And
a great question.
While I see Liza there, Liza, I thought you did what I think was intentional. It certainly came across anyway as perfect response to that incredibly tedious speech from Polonius, full of such good advice that you no doubt have heard 100 times from that man, and it was clear from your reaction that you were saying, yeah, daddy, yeah.
Thank you. That's what I was doing.
I see Clark's hand up. Hi, Clark.
Hey, I have a question for the audience.
Wait, we lost your sound, Clark, for just a moment. Try again. Okay, now try.
Right again. A question for the audience. How did this work on Zoom for you? I sometimes get tired of sitting in one place, and these are long sessions with lots of people staying, but also, and we're amateurs. None of us are really actors. I'm not an actor, but, and then you have the Zoom thing. Some of it didn't work quite as well as it was supposed to, but did it seem to be fun or interesting, or were there suggestions you could give Sarah or Gray or others about how to do something like this again if we did better?
Great question. Anybody?
That's very good.
Oh, thank you.
Clark, I thought it worked remarkably well.
Yeah, thank you. I did too. You guys are way better than what we've been doing on Saturday nights, I promise you, by a long shot.
I just learned something new. I never knew Clark Lemons was not an actor.
Yeah. Come on.
I saw you earlier in something, Clark, and I just knew you were an actor. My surprise was that our dear friend Brooks Hollifield is an actor. That I did not know.
Yeah. So many. Boy, there was not a weak performance among any of you.
Brooks is the one that made us cry the most, I think. I mean, I really did tear up any number of times with Brooks. I wanted to hear from Holly a little bit about her Gertrude, and from anyone else about the way Gertrude comes across. To me, you came across as a pretty seductive Gertrude. But what about Gertrude? What we find out about her from Claudius, from her own performance, and from what the ghost says and Hamlet's reaction. Do you see her as, do you see an Oedipus complex working here? What's going on?
My microphone, I can't find where my microphone.
We can hear you.
Oh, you can?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, so I haven't been muted all this time. Okay. So is my video off? Okay.
Yeah, I can't see your video.
All right. Okay. Good thing this didn't happen earlier. When I was first reading those lines, I have, also as a mother who has had a son who was difficult, and didn't really obey that much. That was in the lines at first, but then she's kind of, I think the fact that the way she's consoling her son though is, we all gotta die sometime. And that's how she consoles him for the death of his father. So I'm thinking this woman is kind of, she's fine with how things have come out at this point. Right now, this is kind of what she wanted. So.
An awful lot of people just don't notice what Hamlet says quite clearly, and Claudius certainly emphasizes this relationship is incestuous. In that time period, it was utterly forbidden for a brother to marry his brother's widow. And Hamlet, a wonderful line, Clark, right? To post with such dexterity to incestuous sheets. I mean, that's what, no matter what else Gertrude has done, whether she was adulterous before her husband's death or not, the ghost says so, she is guilty of incest. No wonder Hamlet thinks, frailty, thy name is woman.
Well, one thing that strikes me every time too, Clark did the seems, madam, nay it is, I know not seems, that, that first real speech that Hamlet has. And, he's really kind of railing against the rest of the court of Denmark, certainly his stepdad and his mom. And this is the king's reply. "'Tis sweet and commendable in your nature, Hamlet." And you're thinking, is anyone even listening to Hamlet? Everyone just needs Hamlet to be what they need him to be. And I think that's one of the reasons, one of the ways in which Hamlet speaks to all of us. We all know what that's like. Did anybody just hear me? Because everything you just said doesn't respond to anything that I said. I know that feeling. So, well, we could keep going, couldn't we? What a joy to be with you all. I think I might just close us out by reflecting on, I really enjoyed getting to know the people just through email and then through our 2 practice sessions. I felt like a little kid sneaking into the grown-ups room with all you prestigious faculty, letting a young assistant professor come in. And I just want to comment, Colin wasn't able to make it, and I connected with Colin through email, several email exchanges, and it strikes me, I was disappointed on his behalf, I'm sure he was too, that his Zoom link didn't work. And I guess I'll just make a philosophical reflection to close us out, that's metonymic for so many things that are happening in our lives right now, because we're isolated. Things that we've counted on, our normal interactions have been curtailed because of COVID-19. And I'm always surprised when I study constraints, artistic constraints, like Zoom, instead of just being live, that actually the more constrained things are, research shows the more creative we become. So you'd think if we had everything handed to us and everything just as it was supposed to be, we'd be the most creative. That's not true according to any of the research. And so I'm just grateful to have had my own creativity enhanced by all of you. And thank you for being so willing and brave to try to do a reading like this over all our internet connections. So thank you. I would just be so honored to ever interact with any of you again. So thank you.
Thank you.
So I want to again say thank you, Sarah. It's been really marvelous having you lead this. And so the session is now formally over. You can, people who want to stick around can stick around. You can unmute yourself. You can chat with others or whatever you would like. And we'll see you next week for another great program.
Thank you,
Eric,
Gretchen.
could I ask?